Alrighty, my friend, let's get started. Hold on. Okay, cool. Alright. Vamos, vamos, vamos. Okay. Wait, what? Okay, that one is incorrect. Alright. Okay. Okay, okay, okay. And let's do this. Alright. Start here. Go off screen for a little bit. So, Lillian. Interesting. Just got the Virgo stellium in the ninth. He is Cap. Juno. Juno is rising in her chart. That's interesting. Capricorn. And then she's the moon. Her moon is in Aries. North Node, Taurus. Both your kids have Uranus opposite Sun, which is interesting. It's a very rebellious placement. Opposition can lead to, my mind went straight to the father, for some reason. I mean, yeah, it's the sun, but hmm, yeah, um, perhaps the way they experience the father, lacked some stability. But overall, sun opposite Uranus is definitely, it's a kind of person that is really, really, they're not here to just live the everyday life, right? They want it interesting, live life to the fullest. It's all about freedom. So sometimes it's just like a very the upbringing was just very unorthodox. But yeah, it's just kind of like someone who's willing to be a little bit controversial, eccentric. Um, yeah, super, super freedom loving, super independent though. Um, what can happen though with the opposition, yeah, so a lot of times, yeah, like I said, the upbringing was full of uncertainty, change, kind of unrootedness. So that's something that they need to figure out or work on. Um, but usually people with that are very, very good with dealing with kind of like lives that are full of change. Um, but the shadow of it is that there can be like a level of disconnection. And if like there can be that obsession of just things being wild all the time, or just like, and it can almost feel weird for things to be like grounded. Yeah, it can be a little bit chaotic, but they can thrive in the chaos. And a lot of times more conservative, not politically, but more like the more conservative types, um, can I guess they can get a little offended or rubbed the wrong way by these types, by this opposition. So it just takes a placement like this time to figure out how they're gonna, um, kind of express that very unorthodox way of existing. Um, what else? Oh, yeah. There's also usually like a distrust of tradition that I've seen a lot. Yeah, anti-tradition, and oh yeah, and yeah, very, very humanitarianist, excuse me, or humanitarian, very big humanitarians. But yeah, so that's for both of your kids. But um, yeah. So, anyways, with Lillian, she is a Virgo, um, and it's funny because you guys. are both Virgos. And okay, your moons are a degree away. Or sign away. So yeah, oh, see that Venus with Saturn. Mm. So the way I would think that the the Virgo energy, the Virgo Sun, Virgo Mars, I mean Virgo Jupiter, that is like ultra perfectionism potential. You really gotta watch out with those places. Like the main message is that it's okay not to be perfect. I'm sure, like, when you have Jupiter and Virgo, that is just people with that can get so down on themselves if they're not able to just get to these just insane, um they just have such high, like it's ridiculous. Like I've seen, I can think of so many stories, like the expectations that they set for themselves, and if they don't get them, it's just like, oh, I suck. And of course, having the awareness of that is the first step, in healing it. But when you have Mars in Virgo and the Sun and it's in the ninth, that perfectionism can be in the realm of learning. Um, it could be someone who's searching for the perfect philosophy, and it could be someone who is because like the ninth house, I imagine Lillian is, she's meant to travel. She's not here to just have like a boring life by any means. She's here to really really explore the world, and yeah, and just her I guess like a big part of her purpose is just like expanding that idea of what truth is, right? Coming from America, you have a very, very, like it's just a very, very limited idea of what universal truth is and how much that can just be different from one culture to the next. And obviously, you know how much I love Virgo energy, right? It's just so it's never the same. It's that mutable earth, right? So it really is like it can be that OCD, like low vibe, or it can just be very, very high vibe, it can be like more like that magical Pisces energy. So yeah, the thing with Virgo Mars is that it can be so critical. It can be so self-critical, right? Um, it can be so self-critical, and it can just really, really, like it has to like really, really be able to look at itself clearly. Um, if it's unable to do that, it will project a lot of that inner criticism externally. I've seen this. I just actually had, like, the last chart I did, had this placement, and I've noticed that this is a lot easier in women's charts, modern day women's charts, than males. And I think what happens is that, and it also really depends on the rest of the chart, right? Like if it's like a super, if it's a super earth heavy chart with no fire, and yeah, it can be rough, but I don't know. I think that with Mars, yeah, with Mars, Virgo, there's just that potential of being that flow killer, you know? Um, think of it like this. Virgo notices everything, right? It's the most observant, physically observant sign, right? So while even though it's mutable, while other signs, like, let's call it Pisces, right? Sag, Gemini, right? These other mutable, the three other mutables, they can just go with the flow, and it's fun to live life where you're just kind of like in this just this just this going with the flow, not over analyzing everything too much, just kind of like like a wave, just vibing. And um sometimes Mars Virgo, now it's very, I like that she has an Aries moon with that. um Sometimes Mars Virgo can just like notice every little thing, and they can be very, very negative, and they can just take it out on themselves, right? And then when they get close in relationships with people, whether it's friendships, relationships, family, all that, they can sometimes um take out their own, because they're so hyper aware of everything, right? So let's say that insecurities, um they can just like kind of project that onto other people, and it can be quite annoying to be around. But with that said, I've also seen Mars Virgo be amazing for success, amazing for organizing one's life, amazing for understanding that everything in life, there's a level of there's different there, like, let's say you have a goal. There's many different steps that it takes to get to that goal. And some people just are way too like, oh yeah, it'll just happen. Mars Virgo, oh my God, Mika, stop. Stop, Mika. It's not even close to your meal time. Mars Virgo can definitely just figure things out. They know the steps that it takes. They can be very, very good with their physical health, right? Their day-to-day routine. Um, yeah, just like very goal-oriented, very practical, productive. Um, but yeah, I mean, I would just say that they sometimes just they like, and this is the very Virgo thing, like they have this system of doing things, and they want to stick to that. So when it can make collaboration a little bit difficult. It can make, but at the end of the day, like I say, always say about Virgo, it is this very interesting energy. Yeah. So as long as they can be very self-aware and understand, okay, I'm being too hard on myself, right? Because it's that 0-100 energy with Virgo. As you know, right? Well, I don't know if you're watching this, Jen, or if you're gonna show Miss Lillian. But yeah, overall, I think that in terms of success, in terms of like getting the job done, Mars and Virgo, like I always say, like if I'm gonna have like an accountant, not that like Virgo's not really good for being accountants, but like they're gonna get the job done, if I was hiring an accountant, it'd be Mars and Virgo sort of one, right? Or someone that I can count on, if as long as they're not like the low vibe Mars Virgo. Also, with Virgo, I know sometimes the expectations for themselves are so high that they tend to see themselves here and other people here, when in reality it's them here, the other people are here, right? So It's just that mindset of like, okay, each day, today I might be 50 out of 100. Next day might be 60. Next day might be 90. Next day might be 40, and not being too high and not being too low, right? Also, it can be kind of like a nerve, yeah, like the whole nervous energy with that, just it comes from that perfectionism and that, like, yeah, and sometimes they think that like people are noticing so much about them when they're not, so that can create a little bit of like performance anxiety and stuff like that. But yeah, like since it is mutable, I mean, they can't, at a high energy into the ninth house too. Mars in the ninth house is someone who wants to, go on adventures. They want to experiment and they want to, put a lot of energy, that kind of assertiveness, Martian energy into experiencing the different worldviews and just the fact that her sun is in the ninth house in whole sign, which would be eighth house in actually, yeah, yeah, I don't have that classes, but yeah, they can they're really here to learn, so a big part of her karma is to travel and to experience life and just kind of go with the flow and kind of try a lot of different things and then eventually figure out exactly which one, like what they want to do. So yeah, how is that mixed with the Aries moon? Aries moon is all, there's that emotional need for independence, for being that pioneer. It can be a little bit very assertive. Um, they get their way for sure. They have to watch out. It's very important and this is why I think these two can match up well, because even though it's a 5 signs away, so it's a quincunx. So Aries and Virgo, like how did those two work together? Well, there is that level of Aries where they want to do they have that independent streak, right? They have that need for independence, the need for doing things on their own. Very important for them to have like a physical like outlet, like sports or something like that to burn off that fire energy. Um, of course, like yeah, there can be anger sometimes with people who have that placement. And yeah, I think that it's just important to, for her to like really, because with Uranus third and then the moon, would be third in classes. There's just that need to to kind of have her voice be heard, to speak her mind, right? And because Uranus is there, it's probably going to be a very yeah, just like very kind of a unique way of seeing the world, and also that's like an amazing placement for. I'm gonna go back to this for a little bit. It's like an amazing placement for downloads, for just receiving these cosmic downloads. So yeah, anything third house is, usually they're talkers, but yeah, Virgo, it can kind of go different ways, right? It's that sign. I always say Virgo is the most misunderstood sign. Um, so yeah, she doesn't have many like hard aspects. She doesn't have Mars square. Oh yes, okay. Mars square Pluto, 1,000%. Like she need like that is like a volcan, like one of the most volcanic aspects in astrology, right? Um, so a lot can boil over. Um, so that just doubles down on that need to just like like have like that routine, because like that's what Virgo's about too. So to have, yeah, that whether it's, you know, physical or the creative outlet to kind of get that energy out, right? It can be quite frustrating for, you know, Aries moon, Mars square Pluto to you know, to kind of like, it can be difficult to like just sit in one place. It's very, very active. Um, so yeah, like more on that theme of potential perfectionism, you know, as a Capricorn rising, Saturn rules the chart. So it can be the case where, yeah, it can be the case where the first, you know, until like a lot of karmic lessons in the first 30 years. Um, yeah, sometimes it can kind of be a little bit, you know, the whole 2 steps forward and 3 steps back and that whole thing. But interesting. Let's get Neptune in a second. So Saturn rules the chart in the 7th, but it's conjunct Venus. So that is interesting, right? Because there's a lot of karma around romance, around like partnership. A lot of times, the 7th house Saturn people, they it just takes them a while, like in terms of like partnership. Sometimes it just takes them a while to really find the right relationships. There's a lot of karmic lessons to be learned in that area of life. Um, and but like the thing that with the Venus Saturn conjunction, right? That is one of the best placements for long-term relationships. Um, so there's yeah, there's a lot of karmic lessons in that realm. Um, it's like maybe the best placement for loyalty. Um, but sometimes there's like issues with showing that, right? And because, you know, Venus is what we value and it's our love language. So yeah, there can just be like, yeah, there's delays when it comes to forming close relationships. And just that so it can be frustrating, because there's that deep longing for these. But there can be like these painful experiences that life throws at one. And it's all about self-love, right? Everything. So it goes back to the whole Virgo perfectionism and everything like that. And there's really this like parallel between, you know, how one sees oneself and the relationships. Um, I think like from a karma perspective, there's lots of like past life partners and a need to balance out relationships, karmic relationships. Let's say in past lives that there's like kind of an imbalance in certain relationships, right? So yeah, like the need to kind of balance those out. And yeah, just like lessons in love. That's kind of what it is. And oftentimes there are some difficult ones, but it, you know, kind of gives way to those, you know, long lasting, really loving ones. Um, but I would say like on a psychological level, it can create lots of shyness early on, difficulty, yeah, kind of like maintaining relationships early on. Um, and a lot of it depends on the parents in the early childhood. But yeah, like I've seen that placement. Um, sometimes people like feeling like unlovable. So yeah, it's just like they have to work really, really hard on that area of life. And I would say, yeah, so it's like really just like yeah, it's all about self-love and just the work that's needed in that realm and how yeah, it's just that parallel between the relationships and relationship with self. And I think yeah, like a lot of times the frustration with that can be that they want people with that placement like they want relationships more than anything, but it just feels like there's energy that's just holding it back, right? um yeah, with anything Saturn, it's patience, hard work, determination, and just yeah, really self-acceptance. Now Venus also rules spending, finances. So um I would say that it's kind of this the same energy, and just the need to like learn to value money, um and yeah, it can sometimes make it can make one a little bit conservative with spending, and there can be these real ups and downs. um and when we go look at the second house, right, which has Neptune, it's all about having not having like an over obsession with like materialism, like having sort of a spiritual outlook when it comes to finances. A lot of times, yeah, and if like what I've noticed with the Neptune second is that if if someone's too much in that material, I need this, I need that, like it can be a little bit difficult. But when they start to think about the metaphysical value of what they're doing, then it gets a lot easier. But yeah, I would say like just going back to what I was saying about the communication, being able to just like have that self-acceptance around, you know, different ideas, because like I said, like she has um she'll most likely be someone that just has different ideas than the people around her about just life in general, and have like lots of very interesting philosophies, and always trying to challenge them, always. So when it comes to people that she surrounds herself with, it's very, very important for her to be around people who challenge her, and for her to just be open to not knowing, to always like kind of like the iPhone, it's always updating, right? So like the more you go out in the world and you learn, you increase your worldview. Um, just being able to, yeah. So like like I always say, like when there's some people that believe that anything is possible. They're very open-minded. There's some people that are just completely dogmatic and closed down. And yeah, so just always trying to kind of be, yeah, just always being open to what could be, never just thinking like, oh, this is the way it is, that's it. Now, from a nodal perspective, whenever I see North Node in Taurus, I think that, so that the South Node is on the midheaven in Scorpio. That is someone who is really like in this life, they're trying to find peace, and they're trying to really find these values, right? They're trying to find very strong, solid values that they can, values, internal resources. They're here, and then we like think of Taurus as like the senses, right? So like being grounded within your own body, loving your own body. Usually like the South Node in Scorpio have had past lives that were a little bit traumatic sometimes. And they're here to really learn about, about peace, and it's in the fifth house. So, well, really, we can think of it more as Mika, stop, Jesus Christ. We can think of it more as like if the South Node is so close to midheaven that there's been an imbalance in terms of the home, like the work, the outer life, the inner life balance, the work life, the home life balance, and it's kind of like this idea of coming back to the self, right? That's very important. Something like yoga, could be very good. Because there's just lots of lessons, yoga, meditation, anything spiritual. I think because like yoga, from with the Taurus energy, it's like it gets you in your body, right? And it gives you that confidence, and it helps out with some of that Mars Pluto. She is probably a very competitive person, very competitive. Um, what I've noticed sometimes with people who have like Aries moon and different places like that is that I'm not saying this is her at all, but I've seen it, is that sometimes they will, if they don't find that physical outlet to kind of release that very strong energy, they sometimes can like smoke weed or do different things like that because the energies are so intense. Um, okay. So Capricorn rising, obviously, so it has an exact trine with the sun. So if you think of the egg metaphor, sorry, my throat. Where the shell is the ascendant, the white is the sun, and the moon is the yolk. She, the Capricorn and the Virgo obviously are very in line with each other, so people will see her in this very earthy way, right? Um, the moon in Aries, that will be very hidden from people. So when people get to know her, they'll be surprised by, just that intensity and that assertiveness, that fire, that inner fire. Um, but what's cool, yeah. So she doesn't have any real hard aspects to the moon. Although it does square the ascendant, so that's an interesting aspect pattern where, yeah, the the moon, yeah, so it squares the descendants. And yeah, that just speaks to kind of the emotional, core being very at odds with the outer personality. So it can sometimes make someone appear a little bit moody, and they can have, a level of difficulty when it comes to understanding other people's emotions. And sometimes, like, yeah, doing like misjudging people's, you know, I guess, yeah, body language, and they can, yeah, sometimes just have like, wrong impressions, of other people's motives and whatnot. Um, and yeah, it can just make it difficult for other people to really like see their true feelings. So, and sometimes, yeah, sometimes they can like almost like hide those true feelings to avoid different issues that might arise in relationships. Um, so yeah, it just comes down to finding that safe place to really feel secure on an emotional level. Um, and just work really, really hard to, find that strong sense of emotional security, which is, yeah, like in this sense, whether, whatever way you look at it, like if you look at it as the fourth house, that's of, about really, really going deep within the self, and, creating that spiritual emotional relationship with the self. But yeah, like the more that she can really understand where her emotional reactions come from, um, the better, that's gonna, that like it's gonna have a better effect on having harmonious relationships. Yeah. Um, so Sun is with Mars, in Virgo, obviously. So that just gives a lot of willpower. Um, that it just creates someone who, yeah, lots of energy, very courageous, um, yeah, just very, very assertive, and great leader. Sun Mars people are outstanding leaders. And the fact that Sirius is there too with Mars, it can make her very, very good at nurturing others, and doing so in a way that's very pragmatic, like showing that she cares by the things she's willing to do. Um, and yeah, it really is like this very, very passionate, like assertive identity. Um, and it's someone that you can count on. Like I said, like it's a leader, right? Um, high, yeah, lots of endurance, right? And as a Capricorn rising, there is that, yeah, like I said, like there's a lot of setbacks that can happen the first 30 years. Like, yeah, Saturn is actually not making any difficult aspects, it's just conjunct. Let me just check this with my eyes. Yeah, well, it squares midheaven. But yeah, like it really just, yeah, it gives that ability to just like get pushed down and just get back up, right? And every Mars, yeah, I need to be so ambitious, like all the Mars Sun people I know. Um, so it actually works well with, because Mars rules her moon. So the fact that it's with the sun, it does kind of create this ability to really, really go towards her goals in a way that's kind of like, straightforward. So very good for things like business. Like, I mean, there's like anything she puts her mind to, she can do very good in. Um, so very interesting also. She has Mercury retrograde natally. Um, so that is very common in artists. It's in Leo. So, sometimes people with that Mercury. So yeah, she's very interesting. Because she has that third house, and just being, yeah, just like being able to just like truly speak her emotions, right? To have that, like, even if it's like just certain people, right? That she can truly feel like she can express herself on that, in that very authentic, because that's like an Aries moon is not good at like holding back. Like they need to just let it out, right? So the worst thing that can happen to Aries moon is if they, well, obviously besides like the temper thing, is if they're not able to really just be themselves and just like say it how it is, right? So yeah, I mean that it's just important to find those types of people. Um, and yeah, and like going back to like the sun opposite Uranus, like that yeah, it can definitely create conflicts and whatnot. Um, yeah, I've seen that one is like early on, just kind of I don't know how she is with her brother. Um, Sometimes like the third house energy there, Uranus can create an odd, not in a bad way, but like just like a kind of different, like I guess like kind of eccentric type of relationship with the sibling. But then if we factor in the moon there, it can create like, yeah, a very, very deep connection, um, emotional connection with the sibling. Um, so yeah, the fact that, so Black and Lilith is also on the descendant, so that just really speaks to this theme of some of the potential darkness coming out in those relationships, romantic relationships, and it's Cancer, so the moon's ruling that house. So that can, I think that just that you know for relationships, I think it just speaks to that importance of being able to like have that solid communication, um, which is, it's probably something that she'll karmically be working on in that arena, that house, that arena of relationships. And Venus in Cancer is a placement. It's a love. It's the love. It's a very, very lover. Um, it's a it's someone who value. Well, first of all, they value um family. They love their family, and yeah, they're just deep romantics, and it's actually sextiling. So it's sextiling Jupiter, which is an amazing placement. which usually actually will give lots of luck and money, lucky and love, or luck and money, luck and love. Um, yeah, so with Venus in Cancer, a lot. So the fact that it's with Saturn, there is that need to have like a very strong, solid foundation in love, but then also, um, it's really really about like how safe they feel in Cancer, right? And what can happen with Venus in Cancer is that if they've been hurt, the whole Cancer thing, once the crab is hurt, it crab, crawls back into its shell. So it can be very difficult to trust again if they're hurt. But they are great listeners. Um, they're just lovers, right? And so it would be a more conservative approach to love, where they want to create that strong foundation first, and then um kind of slowly allow things to develop, I guess, and from a way more like emotional um perspective, yeah, kind of like place. But if I think of Venus and Cancer, I mean, yeah, just so caring and such good listeners. And whether it's friends, family, partner, just like they're the nurture. So sometimes they have to watch out for like giving. Like there's that whole balance between on energetically between giving and receiving, right? And sometimes that can be a little bit they just have to watch out for people taking advantage of them in that sense, with the Virgo also, right? Um, and yeah, I think in love also there's just that need to feel cozy and yeah, like just really love, like Venus in Cancer loves the home, loves to kind of be in their blankets and watch movies and stuff. So yeah, but as I was saying, um, they sometimes can look for love in the wrong places. But I think the Saturn once again it's just creating so many lessons in love. But um, sometimes there can be boundary issues, and um, it's just really important for them to really really take things very slow, right? Um, and just know that it's not everyone is the right person for them, right? And they can judge that by how safe they feel, how and so it's really about following that intuition, but um, also understand that there is that potential for that kind of hopeless romantic energy, right? But like with the whole thing with boundaries, like Aries moon, like they're gonna say how it is, right? So that's definitely gonna help that for sure. And yeah, I mean, just super, like I could not see her being like like she's definitely super loyal. Um, yeah, super loyal, and yeah, just yeah, like I'm thinking of like what can like what like what I've seen with that placement. Sometimes what happens is that when it comes to like, okay, so let's say there's lessons in love, right? We already laid that out. They can sometimes like hold on to resentments, and it's really really important to be able to go into that third house, that and be able to just like talk things through and let go of the resentments, because sometimes what can happen is that, like, let's say scenario, they put themselves out there, they're, great partner, whatever, blah, 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 and then someone screws them over, and they might not even realize it, but they might hang on to that resentment for a long time, and not allow themselves to like I said before, to trust again, just holding on to those hurt feelings. And sometimes they can, it's not like a Scorpio Venus, but like sometimes they can, like, on an emotional level, like seek out that revenge. So yeah. And being a water Venus, it's like there is a level, like, kind of impression, like being impressionable. So like the energy vampire types, they cannot, like, obviously no one should be with those people, but they have to really, really watch out for people that could, like, sense that vulnerability and kind of play it, like kind of play into that, like, very empathetic, caring nature, and just take. And yeah, like in terms of creativity, right? Like it's a, it's a nice placement. A water Venus. But yeah, just very warm, lots of warmth, and interesting how that plays with some of that very fiery volcanic energy. Mm. So even though Saturn is, you know, is there, Venus sextile Jupiter, it does create this amazing warmth. Venus trine Venus sextile Jupiter, it's amazing. Conjunct all those. Um, it's great for popularity. Very good for good looks also. Um, and it just brings lots of gift, right? And once again, it's another aspect that makes relationships very, very important. Um, so yeah, I've seen this play out before, like in charts where it's like there's so many aspects of someone who wants love so much, but then like the Saturn, the seventh house can just like delay it, right? So it doesn't mean that it's not going to be good. It tends to delay it, and not like saying there's no relationships. It just delays the good ones a lot of the times. Um, but yeah, that's a great one for, like, for wealth. Um, and yeah, it's just nice. Makes people, yeah, because a great aura. I would say with anything, not really, because it's square. But just, yeah, I would say with anything Jupiter, just making sure the only downside would be, like, overindulgence. So yeah, just making sure that there's restraint. But like having all that Virgo is obviously, amazing for that. So yeah. So another difficult one for love is Venus opposite Chiron. So obviously Chiron is in the first house. Yeah. So that once again is it creates kind of like an imbalance between relationship with others and relationship with the self, and different, like, lots of healing comes from relationships, but also typically pain, and it is linked to boundaries again, right? um and just someone who's very, very um yeah, it's just like another one of these aspects of someone who's like very much searching for love, um and just, yeah, very, very sensitive to the needs of others. And there's that, yeah, just that potential for putting themselves down to make a relationship work. And it just, yeah, that big lesson, which is all over this chart, of self-love, of putting yourself first. Um, what else could I say about that? I think the challenge with that at times is that some people who have that aspect, it's like, if they, like, the test is like, okay, if you're not getting the feedback that you want externally, can you still find that within yourself? And then that ends up just, it's the whole metaphor of, you make the garden of you as nice as possible, and then, you attract from doing the work yourself, right? As opposed to seeking, seeking, seeking. But it's also, a great one for becoming a healer. Like, she could be someone who's like, really, really good at understanding the dynamics at play in relationships, and who can, yeah, really just do great things. Like she could be like someone who, is very, very, like a couples counselor or something like that. Like, I mean, she has a million different career potentials, but like, yeah, someone who could, go back to my page. Yeah, someone who could really, really just help other people, and just I guess it's like really, really understand the dynamics, that go into, like, kind of like couples counseling type stuff, right? But yeah, the whole thing is just like being so busy caring for other people, loved ones, that, yeah, that they neglect their own needs, right? Um, and then that can, yeah, lead to like resentment of partners. And yeah, it's just about that acquiring that wisdom, and getting really good at nurturing the self. Um, so I would say another thing, like, with this karmic journey towards Taurus, is getting, just Taurus Scorpio nodally, is overcoming the distrust one might have for change. Um, and really, really making sure that they're not hitting out at loved ones. The more creative outlets she can have, because Taurus is Venus, so Venus rules her north node, the better, right? And I would say that, yeah, like the south node in Scorpio, sometimes they come in this lifetime with feelings, and so there's not really hard aspects to it, but yeah, they can sometimes just like feel as if they were like cheated in past lives. And it does square Neptune. Interesting. Yeah, just like learning to like really trust that process of change, and just like, you know that's the thing, right? With that Taurus Scorpio axis is, um sometimes, regardless of what way, right? Whether it's, from Scorpio to Taurus, or Taurus to Scorpio, like, it just is about death, rebirth, transformation, allowing, there to be room in your life, being able to take risks, all that. Um, what was it looking at? Um, so sometimes with like the Venus Saturn too, there can be like where one parent was like too strict, and that kind of like pushed away their like self-expression. Um, I'll add that. And I'll just say also Mars square Pluto, like, yeah, it's like that's like that's like the aspect of violence. I would say like she should get into kickboxing or like some some kind of something like that, you know. One sec. Yeah. Yeah. That's that's plus one. Um but yeah, okay. So with okay, so Mercury in Leo, Mercury and Leo people. So yeah, it's retrograde, so we'll get into that more. They like learning is supposed to be fun. They tend to communicate in that very Leo way. And eighth house Mercury, you gotta love it. That creates someone who wants to just like go deep and like research and learn about, the whether it's esoteric, um, the areas of life that are taboo, that a lot of people, the secrets of the world, right? Um, really get deep with things. And interesting, so it trines, it doesn't show me here, but it does, yeah, it trines Pluto in the 12th, which is interesting. So that gives like a very probing mind, right? Like when, yeah, like I said, who can um really, really just like, so she's probably very, very smart. Just like when she gets interested in something, she can just go full in. Esme. And yeah, just like very, like the desire to get beneath the superficial. Um, but yeah, with the retrograde, sometimes the Mercury retrograde people can, yeah, they're more right brain. Like I said, it's like sometimes they might have trouble in school early on, not always, but um, just because the system doesn't, it's not made for the Mercury retrograde people, right? They they just, the way that they see the world and they view things are not linear. It's very non-linear. So, and they can also sometimes ruminate a lot, like kind of be in their own heads. And on a karmic level, the whole point of the Mercury retrograde, and also she'll, when it's Mercury retrograde, she'll feel more at ease while everyone else is freaking out. um but yeah, it can also kind of complicate the like communication and whatnot. Esme, you want to help, Esme? Hmm? Okay, I'm gonna pet Esme a little bit, and then she'll come in. Yeah, so um on a karmic level, it's like it's either she underspoke or overspoke, thought in a different, in a way that was like um not right, or yeah, like there's so because of that, like in past lives, right? So because of that, she's in this lifetime spending the first, probably till mid-20s, whatever, um until she kind of becomes like an adult or matures, whatever. It's not really like there's like an age for it. But yeah, so for that period, it's really trying to figure out, how do I want to come off with my communication? How do I want, how, like, what is the best way for me to think, right? And when I see that, so Neptune, so okay, so is there any in Leo? Yeah, so with okay, so Neptune squaring the nodes makes me think that in past lives, in a past life, that her that she kind of lost hope in some type of way, right? There's like this um yeah, like loot like what like how like Neptune being like the highest, spiritual energy, that something happened, whether it was the conditioning of the society she lived in, that led her to sort of lose this feeling of, I guess, God, um, this feeling of inspiration, this feeling of divine wisdom, right? So and yeah, so I would think that with all these really deep placements that she's definitely, and with you as her mom, right? These aren't mistakes. These aren't coincidences. That she, would be someone who is really here especially with all that ninth house, to really, really get deep with her, kind of finding that like expansive worldview, right? Like Jupiter in the ninth house is like such a great placement for um just like that. It gives that insatiable search for the meaning of life, right? Endless quest for knowledge through traveling physically or traveling metaphorically, right? And just it's about wisdom. So, and then like even Jupiter in Virgo is like, in Virgo in general is big time about being of service, right? So there's that strong desire to be of service. So what the fuck? I get the Lord stop calling me. Sorry. You got kicked out of what? Yeah. Girlfriend got kicked out of thing or school. Um, do it Esmond thinks. Esmond, look, Esmond, what's the thing? Oh, she looked at that part of fortune in Leo in the eighth. So she is saying that Esmond is saying that the part of fortune is like your flow, your place of flow, right? Um, and having it in the eighth house of Leo is basically saying that at it's like at Lillian's at your best. I don't know who I'm talking to. At Lillian's best, you know, part of fortune eighth is just surrendering the ego, and it's that whole energy of like, what does the soul need versus what does the ego want, right? And the esoteric, the occult, um, really, really figure out what are you interested in, like what do you really like, really, really, what really lights your fire? Because she has that Uranus opposite sun, she's not going to be the type of person that's going to be afraid of what other people think. Like, and sometimes, you know, people with the Uranus sun can. It's interesting that your son's a DJ because that Uranus rules, electronics. It's very inventive, right? But they could both have like their own version of it. But it's like, and then in Leo, it's like, living is like a kind of a shining example of other people living in. It's like the inner child, like having that lightness in these really really dark areas. So it could be someone who is, um, really meant to like be able to go into like these very dark parts of life, but still kind of have this this um this gregariousness, this innocence, and this ability to inspire others through her own um kind of crusades, like the Jungian crusades in the unconscious. But also, yeah, part of fortune in Leo, it's someone who, yeah, who wants to be successful, who wants to have fun in life, but kind of like a creative destiny. So yeah, it's interesting. And like even Venus with Saturn, it could give someone like a lot of endurance and purpose when it comes to like the arts, right? So it could be she could be very creative. Um, it's just like the biggest thing is how does she get past herself, right? So, anyways, yeah. Mm, mm, mm. And even like when it comes to work, right? Like Vesta in the third house in Pisces, Vesta is what, one finds most sacred. So, it's kind of like the more fun version of Saturn. So that's, yeah, I mean that's like service to humanity, right? Like someone who wants to make the world a better place, who wants to, you know, be in that energy of compassion. And a lot of times that's, that type of energy can feel like very overwhelmed unless they're um, you know, really working on the service, like in terms of like being of service to others, right? Um, and that's the third house is that commitment to speaking the truth, right? And helping other people see things clearly. So it could even be like a therapist or, yeah, tons of different potentials. Um, Now, okay, one thing about Neptune's second that's interesting is that sometimes they can be very unrealistic in terms of how they assess their own worth. So like let's say for example, she's obvious example, let's say she's uh an astrologer, I don't know, like she's doing some kind of service. Sometimes Neptune second house people they undercharge um and they, like they have issues kind of with their own self-worth, right? Like, and how they assess that. So that's like why like there's that need to like link spiritual and monetary values and to like, I think for a lot of charts, when I see that, it's like someone who could really, when they're doing something that's of service, they can really benefit from that. Um, so mm, yeah, but like obviously there's like tons of ambition, the cap rising, like cap rising, I always say if there's like four people in a, applying for the same job, they're all exactly as qualified one to the next, the cap rising getting the job, they're very, responsible, they have that ambition, they have that, they just have that look of that kind of serious, um responsible, often quite reserved look. Um, usually they're good planners, quite cautious. I mean, Capricorn is the plotter, right? So, um, yeah, and then yeah, they just work hard over long term. But then the fact that Juno is rising, is a very interesting one. When have I seen Juno rising? I'm trying to think. Um, well, either way, I mean, we can talk about that in different ways. Juno is the goddess, right? So that's gonna give like a level of beauty for sure. Um, but yeah, it's also another, like someone who's really, really good at embodying loyalty and commitment in relationships. Um, and usually, and so these are so this is interesting because like with the Venus Jupiter and then this, that's very good for like attracting partnerships, right? Um, and also, but like from another perspective, it's like very, very, it makes someone who's really, really good at nurturing other people. Um, but yeah, like Juno's a goddess, so she's probably, I've never seen your daughter, she's probably gorgeous. Um, and yeah, like people, like Juno is like the lifelong partner, right? So people, look will look at, her and see that, like that energy, that wifey vibe. I don't know. So yeah, and I think it definitely like makes someone a lot more confident when they're in, a very solid relationship, right? So we see that this is like a trend, right? It's like obviously the relationships will come, probably quite a catch, right? Um, but there's a lot of warnings around, take your time, watch out for the wrong types of people, right? And also another thing, like in all areas, is just like being able to express anger in a correct way. Um, so yeah, she's born with Uranus and Pisces generation. Yeah, I love that Uranus and Pisces generation because it's just all about being able to like, dive into like the hidden areas of the world, and kind of the collective unconscious, work with intuition. Yeah, I have a lot of faith in that generation. But Uranus in the third, yeah, like I said, it's like a very fast, it's like one of those genius aspects, like just like very, very quick thinker, outside the box thinker, usually very interested in unusual subjects. So yeah, and able to receive downloads, especially when they're writing or just talking freely. So that's really important to be able to just have creative outlets where they can do that. Um, and yeah, like I was saying earlier, like with the North Node so close to the IC, that um, there is that need to go into the childhood, if there is any trauma, if there is any, anything that is unturned, any unturned leaves, really, really being able to go into that. So I think, with North Node down there, yeah, just really always thinking of like work-life balance, family, like just not being so overly obsessed with career, 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 right? Because that is the past life tendency. Not that like she's not meant to do that, but a big part of her journey here is to learn. It's this higher learning, right? I want to get one thing out. Yeah, so just a different way of what I was saying before, like unresolved karmic material, um, as it relates to one's sense of ultimate meaning, one's dreams and ideals. Lot, skip karmic step around loss of meaning, profound disillusionment or despair that leads to loss of life force and will. It can lead to dissociation. It could also, be related to some unresolved dream or ideal that the person has suppressed or been unable yet to fulfill, and now demands exploration. So then, when we see that, the North Node's in the fifth in Taurus, yeah, just like the simple life, kind of, like trying to really just like yes, accept change, but also just accept peace and harmony, right? And that's kind of like the issue with the Aries moon and the Mars for Pluto, right? um so yeah, explorations of such themes can involve distinguishing whether or not such dreams need to be physically realized or can exist solely as fantasies fulfilled in imagination. This placement can lead to spiritual crisis and transformation, just as much as it can speak of someone who has lost their spiritual way karmically, who now wanders meaninglessly in cycles of despair and perhaps is compensating for the loss with different addictions or other self-abnegating behaviors. Um, in rare cases, the skip set can indicate someone who has been exposed to a psychic attack of some kind, someone who has been possessed by unconscious or astral forces because of the possibility for distortion via fantasy and delusion. Evan, stop it. Jesus, go away. Um, Via fantasy and delusion reflected by this fantasy, this can be an especially problematic case to work with, but I don't know. That's probably that last paragraph. I don't think too much of that. Yeah. So also like Juno, being in the first house, in Capricorn, like in terms of perfect mate. Um, yeah, like once again, someone who has like who's one, independent, right? So like where she can still keep her independence in the relationship, but because the Aries moon at the end of the day, like there might like she could be the kind of person that like it's interesting that this reading has gone a lot towards that relationship um area. But like, a lot of times the Aries moon's like with some of these other placements, it's like that there's that desire for that Virgo, consistency, that Venus and Cancer consistency, um, which is more, more laid back, more close to home. But then, um, yeah, like Juno in the first, it's like with the Aries with the Aries moon, it's like still wanting someone who's not just like so clingy, who um, has their own life, who doesn't need her, but also because it's in Capricorn, someone who um yeah, who they can really respect, who has, yeah, who has their own shit going on, and who also wants like long-term commitment. And yeah, like sometimes the Juno and Capricorn people, it can be later in life, and sometimes they can be attracted to older people. Um, okay, Pluto 12th house is super interesting. That's like one of the most spiritual. It just gives us this incredible need to explore the unconscious realms. As if you come here one more time, I'm gonna be pissed. Um, yeah, just like I always look at like Pluto in the 12th house as a placement of um, as basically this lifetime is the critical one for like it's like diving off of the, so Saturn is represented by a rock, right? So it's like the cliff of Saturn metaphorically represents the material reality into the endless sea of Neptune, which represents oneness with everything. And that's, attained through spirituality, through service to others, right? So like she has, yeah, that kind of chart of someone with in Virgo, yeah, like I keep saying, it's like that is the sign, Virgo Pisces, the axis of service, right? So I really like the fact that she's very, like not this conditioned person, of course she's very young, so a lot of things develop with age, but yeah. And yeah, even Palace is yeah, Vertex, yeah, so it's like she's very, very good at having, she has a very creative mind, and she could be a great writer, Palace, eighth house, very strong intuition, like potential psychic abilities. And it's just like the double, Palace and Mercury, like the, really, really want to like probe into the mysteries of life, get really deep into things that other people might not be interested in. And just like, yeah, it's such an adventure, such an adventure. The physical, like the internal adventure, um and yeah, the outer world. And like, Jupiter ninth house could be like a teacher, someone who goes out in the world, gets a ton of information, a ton of wisdom, and then teaches people. So okay, Black Moon Lilith in Cancer. So this one is interesting. I always think of that. So that's like the our self-fulfilling, how we kind of defeat ourselves is a potential. So obviously in the seventh house, that just speaks to like the kind of like commitment and just like darkness that can come out in that area. Um, so and sometimes it can be related to like the parents' relationships and like you know, that can, yeah, so like I know about um, you know, your past relationships. So sometimes that can, play into that. Um, But yeah, in Cancer, I would say like the low vibe of Cancer is like using like emotional manipulation or like playing victim or like being afraid, like I was saying earlier, like kind of like withdrawing, like not being willing to, yeah, the crowd that retreats, right? Um so just it's just really about being brave and not hiding from the world, right? And sometimes like I would say Black Moon Lilith and water signs, sometimes they can yeah, have this fear of like really connecting on an emotional level. So she lacks air. So sometimes people who lack air, it can be difficult for them to see different perspectives. Um so I mean, yeah, she has all that ninth house, but like when you lack air, doing breath work is really, really good. Getting oxygen, like going hiking, doing things like that. Um But yeah, it can sometimes just make it difficult to sense like yeah like other people's side and being diplomatic and um yeah, like so there can sometimes be like tendency towards dogmatism and closed-mindedness. So it's just really important to not go in that direction. And yeah, I would say Chiron in Capricorn, Chiron in the first house, I feel like a lot of times people with that they feel like a sense of rejection when they like express their who they are, like I guess they're like essential being. Um and yeah, like they can, later on it can, be you know, it can, lead them into that self-exploration that makes them that healer, right? But like, and then Capricorn, I would say sometimes people with that, they can feel a little bit insecure about their place in society. Um, they can have like different, fears as it relates to like putting themselves out there in the public. And yeah, but like they sometimes can be people who choose a career in something of the healing arts. So and yeah, seriously, the ninth, like in Virgo, I would say yeah, just like really, really nurturing yourself and nurturing others by how you're of service and you know, being able to kind of like perfect your skills, but not in that perfectionist, negative perfectionist way. And then ninth house, Sirius, it's just like someone who, like they nurture themselves by the wisdom, that they get from the world, right? Through travel, like learning about different philosophies, and yeah, and they like to have people um help them in that sense as well. So another thing about Saturn in the seventh house is yeah, there can be that like with Cancer, yeah, like I was kind of pointing this, but like yeah, there can just be like the fear of committing in relationships, and like kind of yeah, feeling like that being over like whelmed by one-on-one relationships. But yeah, lots of lessons through that. And Saturn in Cancer, sometimes there can be just yeah, lots of family karma. And just feeling yeah, a little bit like yeah, inhibited, a little bit shy. Yeah, they can be like the dark horse in their family. And yeah, yeah. Stay there, Mika. Let's see here. Cassandra, so that's about like Princess Beauty. She has the descendant, so probably very beautiful. Um, Mm. Ooh, Zosma is like very like kind of close to her Mars and her sun. That's one of the fixed stars that's all about like esoteric knowledge. So yeah, she might be interested in in these types of things at some point. Um, and then let's see what this is all about with Venus pattern. Yeah, so Venus conjunct Castor, and read what it says. This causes the natives to be overly parental in relationships, whether they are business, family, friendships, or their marriage partner. They are continually attempting to mother everyone, making sure they are all wearing warm clothes in cold weather or have some hot soup to eat. This is extremely overdone, but it's not harmful. It can be overbearing, however. Saturn with Castor can be timid, distrustful, eccentric, original in mind, but difficult in expression. Better writer than speaker, considerable intellectual powers, fond of detail, prejudiced against popular opinions. This all goes along with everything saying. Unfavorable for what the fuck? My phone just went. Where was it? Gain through hard work. Okay. All right. That's it. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed. I wonder if I'll do Christians next. Chelsea. All right. Yeah.